All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome, Ketonians and Carnivorians, episode number 2 of the Keto Carnivore Rocks. I'm your host, Jim Hobbs, along with Brian Forsythe of Kix, where we have a fun, open dialogue about medical myths, keto and carnivore recipes that will rock your world, and health hacks that will encourage you to a healthier lifestyle. And hopefully, you're going to find this to be a place where you can tune into, come into, and just share what you've learned in life, and also be able to gain some encouragement from Brian's life and my life, and help you be able to, if you're looking to explore the keto carnivore lifestyle, to be able to get some encouragement and really some people to come alongside of you and tell you it's not that hard to do. And the fact that you're even here means you're somewhat looking into it and interested. So we thank you for joining with us. And Brian, welcome back for week number 2, brother.
Yeah.
So how are things going in Tennessee during this pandemic that we're having?
It's still going the same. I haven't really gone anywhere. I left the house, was it yesterday? I go maybe once a week. I'll go out. Like yesterday, I had to go pick up some duck eggs. But, you know, that's out in the country. And I just got to this farm, and there's like this little porch built on the end of this barn. And the woman leaves the duck eggs in the refrigerator inside that little porch. So you just go grab like everything's labeled with people's names for their order. So I opened up the little refrigerator door, and there's my order. I got a dozen duck eggs and a half a pound of like raw cream butter. And so I just take it and get back in my car, and I pay her with the Venmo app and take off. So I don't even see any people. I see the ducks walking around and the cows and the chickens. But yeah, then I come back here. I did, but I did stop at Kroger. I thought, well, you know, I'm out of cheese and I wanted to make a couple chaffles. So I stopped at Kroger up here. It's like 5 miles from my house. And the parking lot was full. I mean, it's always like that. Like I've never seen it empty except at night. But so I'm like, oh man, I had, you know, this is terrible to say, but I have one of those, the good masks in my car, one of the, whatever they're called, the N95 or 95, or whatever those things are. And, but I haven't worn it in public. And I thought, you know, I'm looking at the parking lot, seeing people coming and going, and nobody's wearing a mask, maybe one or two. And I thought, well, I know what I want. I'm just going to run in and get it. So I run in, I grab some apples for the deer and then grab some cheese, and then I'm back to the self-checkout and I'm out of there. So it was like kind of in and out for me, but it's amazing how many people are just, I don't know, it just looks like every day, like it always does. It's crazy.
Now your farm that you go get your duck eggs from, is that the way it always is, or is that the way it is now since we're on this lockdown pandemic mode that they're operating, we're just leaving your eggs?
No, that's the system. She always had it set up like that, so it's kind of cool. I text her like ahead of time saying, hey, you have a dozen eggs laying around or available, and then she'll text me back like the next day saying that she's got the eggs together, and or if it's butter and she needs to churn more butter, you know, it might take a couple days, but yeah, that's the system. And then you go in there and you can either, she's got a box, wooden box, payment box, like you could put cash in an envelope and stick it in there, or you can pay her through Venmo. And then it's got a little chalkboard on the wall with all the prices. So it's kind of
that's
like
awesome.
It's kind of like an honor system too, you know.
I love that. No, there's some honor systems out here, and there's a place right down the street from me called Ritchies Farm, and Ritchies Farm sells corn. Of course, it's something I can't have anymore, but when I could, you just go out there and you bag your own corn, and they had a little box that you put your cash. It's 12 years for $3. You just stuff your $3 into the box, and that was it. I mean, the reality of it is, if you wanted to take 24, I guess you could, but your conscience would just bother you. But they totally trust, and that's the system they've always used. I think it's always refreshing to me that humanity still has that in this modern age. So I love seeing farms, and I love seeing places operated in that manner. So I hope no one does anything to cause that to end, because that's, for me, it just brings back a little taste of Americana that we still can do that type of business. Now, when you get your eggs from this farm, it sounds like a farm that I go to. We get chicken eggs. They sell duck eggs there, but the chicken eggs are so big, they're just as big as the duck eggs. And you can get your hamburger, grass-fed beef, and they sell a little bit of everything. They sell Amish butter. They don't make it there, but it is imported in. And there's some other stuff that you can get from them as well. And so when the whole pandemic happened and people couldn't get meat, they were just wiped off the shelves. Nothing really impacted where I normally go to shop for our food, thank goodness. But it's a little bit different. They don't leave the eggs. I call them up and ask them, have they gathered the eggs up yet? Because I don't want them washed and I don't want them in the refrigerator yet. I want to be able to set them in my garage and not refrigerate them. So they literally go out and bring back the basket full of eggs and let me pack my own eggs and then pay for it. So it's truly self-serve. Like, I go through and pick my eggs out of the basket, and they're still warm because they've literally just been hatched, or not hatched, I guess birthed, or whatever you want to call it. They laid. Wow. Yeah. Hatched. They're not hatched yet. They're not going to hatch. They're going to be eaten. So so it's kind of cool to be able to pack your own eggs and stuff. And we have some chickens here on our property, but they're just not able to keep up with the demand. Because my wife and I eat probably about 4 to 8 eggs a day. I don't know how many you eat, but we include them in pretty much everything.
Yeah, well, I eat, I only eat one meal, but if it's duck eggs, I'll eat 1 or 2, depending on how much meat I'm eating with it. If it's regular eggs, yeah, sometimes I've used 4 eggs for like an omelet, like regular eggs, like the smaller chicken eggs. But yeah, it's usually between 2 duck eggs and 4 regular eggs a day.
Now, people who may be tuning in to this show, who may be thinking about exploring keto and or carnivore lifestyle as far as how to go about doing it, I know one of the things that I'll just give my side, and I'll let Brian share his side. One of the things that I did, which I loved about going low carb, was I didn't keep track. I know for me, the whole keeping track of calories, how much you're eating, a cup of this, it's craziness in my world. Like, there's people out there who can do it, and I'm just telling you, I'm not one of them. So the freedom that low carb brought to me, and I would get up in the morning. I love cooking, so in the mornings I love the smell of bacon. I love eggs frying in a skillet with the bacon grease. So for me, I would get up and have, this sounds going to sound bad to some people, but I'd have a pound of bacon in the morning with 2 to 4 eggs. And people would go, this is back in 2004. So this is way before. This is back when they called it Atkins. But people go, man, you're going to have a heart attack. And I go, but I feel so good. You know, one of the things that I started going back into my childhood and I don't know about you, Brian, but when I was a little kid and my parents used to take me out to a restaurant, and we'd sit at a restaurant, I used to love to unfold the butter that was there on the table and open up the creamers and just have butter and cream. I thought that was so delicious. But then when the doctor started in the 70s telling my parents that because of their high blood pressure, they had to convert to margarine, that butter was no good, and they had to not eat so many eggs because eggs are not good for you. And they went to all this vegetable oil and margarine. It scared me until I started to do my research on my own, and I went down this low carb route. The fact that butter really is good for you, and just how bad the vegetable oils are on your body. So for me, it was being able to eat a food that I love, to be able to eat as much of it as I wanted. And then the cool thing was, not only did I feel full of energy and I felt great, I was losing weight. I mean, I was eating that and losing weight. So that was my beginning of low carb or Atkins or keto or whatever you want to call it. And then of course I did the thing that makes no sense to me now is I would reward myself. If I dropped a certain amount of weight, I would go, oh, well, I get a chance to have a Cinnabon or a sweet that's full of sugar. And the problem with that was I literally would feel bloated. I would feel sick. I would not feel good after I've been feeling great. And the thing is, it messes with your mind that here I am feeling great, and now I'm going to go poison myself as a reward. Makes no sense to me now, but it made all the sense in the world back when I started out in 2003. But I don't know how your beginning was in going low carb or keto, but that was mine. So I'll let you share your history, Brian.
Well, yeah, I relate to that, the whole reward thing, because, at the beginning, before I fully understood what was going on, I just related to the flavor. I didn't relate to what was going on internally. But yeah, when I first started keto, I actually did try to keep track of like the percentages, and yeah, it's crazy. It drives you crazy. But the thing is with well, actually going to carnivore simplified things. Like I don't even there's nothing, it has nothing to do with calories, it has nothing to do with portion control. It's just you eat till you're full, and because of what you're eating, it's just protein and fat. Your body tells you when you're full and tells you when you're hungry, and it's like, you don't really you don't have to keep track of it. There's no reason to. It's like self-regulating. But with keto, I did at the beginning, but then I kind of, after figuring out how much of this equals that, it's almost like after a while it's second nature, and I kind of eat a lot of the same things. So I knew after a while, well, if I eat this much of this, that's about what I'm supposed to eat of that, But then you get on Facebook on some of these like some of the keto pages. Early on, I belonged to some keto groups. I had to get off of those though after a while, because it was mostly just well, it was a lot of confused people. Like I would try to help like new people that were trying to figure it out, but you get mostly people that were trying to get around the rules, like figuring out a way to eat sweet stuff that's keto friendly, or what was the other one? I'm trying to think. Well, net carbs is another. That's just a way to lie to yourself, Like people always use the net carb trick so they could eat more carbs, but say, oh, but it's got this much fiber so I can subtract. And it's like, no, you're really eating that many carbs. I mean, there's some fiber involved, but, that's just, you're just you're just lying to yourself, really, when it comes down to it. But
that's what those
yeah,
big O. That's what those.
Huh?
Well, I was gonna say that's what those big O. That's what those big O Atkins keto-friendly cookies that you have in your pantry. That's what they have, is the net carb is what they're advertising. That
Oh,
this is good for you.
Right. Right. And then the other thing that, well, if you buy packaged food, I mean, that's another like trap. A lot of beginning keto people, they'll go on these websites to try to learn about it, but it'll be a website that sells all these keto supplements, the exogenous ketones and this, and you have to take this in the morning to get your ketones started. And it's like, no, you don't know that crap. That's just like junk. And they fall into that trap, but they don't know any better. And they spend all this money to buy all this junk. And then I see a lot of people talking about that they can't afford it. They can't afford this diet, that they'd rather go back to the old way of killing themselves. But the fact is, you don't really, it doesn't cost you anything if you do it right. I mean, it just costs you the basic food. It's not expensive. And like for me, when I combined it with intermittent fasting, I got it down. I've gotten it down to one meal a day. It's like it doesn't cost me that much to eat, and I'm full. I'm not hungry. I'm not
Right.
starving. So I don't know. I kind of got off track of what we were talking about, but yeah, I don't know.
It's all good. And I heard those arguments too. And one of the things I used to hear was people in the city can't afford the kind of food in order to do the keto diet. And the reality of it is, I agree with you, Brian. A dozen eggs. Well, you can buy them at Aldi's. I don't know if you have Aldi's in Tennessee, but you have Aldi's here in Virginia. You can buy a dozen eggs for 33 cents or 77 cents, most $1 for a dozen eggs. So, now I pay much more than that. I pay, I think, $5 a dozen for my chicken eggs that I know where they come from. But $1 for a dozen eggs, butter. You get hamburger or steak, and I always look for steak that's on sale. And sometimes you can get ribeye 50% off, and there's always a good deal in the deli section. And what it is, I stock up on ribeyes, and it's honestly, I don't think it's any expensive than anything else. But then I started to. My wife actually got me to look at the mindset the correct way. Was how much is it costing us if we get sick? How much is it costing us to have to go to a doctor and time off of work and non-productivity? And so when you start to look at the bigger picture, the fact that, like you said earlier when you and I were talking, the fact that your immune system is functioning 100%, where if you're on a plane and someone's got a cold sitting next to you, you don't worry about it because your immune system is functioning and firing in all cylinders, that it does what the body's intended to do, to constantly be putting out fires, keeping you healthy and well. And anybody who's trying to come in to get you sick, the body takes care of it for you. That's because you're now looking at food as a fuel to fuel that machine, which is you. And so when you look at that and you look at the overall picture of, you don't have to go to the doctor. You're not spending. You don't spend any money on statins and all these different pharmaceuticals that most people are on. The insulin, all that stuff. It's really the cheapest way that you could go through life, in my opinion, is to go through a keto carnivore lifestyle. As you heard Brian say, and I pretty much have one, maybe two meals at most a day. And I used to be one of those 3-timers a day. Plus, you got to have your dessert at night. So it was, I got to wake up. I got to have breakfast. Oh gosh, it's 11:30. I got to go grab lunch. Where are we going to go grab lunch? And then, it's 5 o'clock. Got to eat dinner. And to be honest with you, I was programmed to eat that way because if I'm telling you the truth, there was a lot of times I was never even hungry to eat lunch or dinner. But yet I felt like I was supposed to do. And then I started to hear that, well, in between your big meals, you're supposed to have little snacks. And then if you just spread out the 3 meals into 5 meals, that's really healthy for you.
Yeah.
To spread the 3 meals into 5 meals and just keep food in your belly all the time, where your body is just constantly working.
Keep those insulin levels like at peak. It's like a VU. VU meter on a soundboard. It's just like peaking in the red all day long.
Yeah, and your body never has a chance to be able to just utilize what you've given it and to be able to recharge itself. And so the intermittent fasting, I think, is fascinating. And I think for those of you who may be looking into it, I would highly encourage you. And I think what Brian said last week, just whenever you have your last bite of food, go 16 hours without having another bite of food. Drink water, but just don't have any food, and then, eat again. Then I think if you start getting into that type of routine, you'll really start to optimize how you're feeling, and you'll start to realize just how powerful of an individual you are by now you determine what you're going to put in your body and be able to determine how you're going to feel the next day. So, you know, it's that type of mindset. It's how you're going to feel. And more importantly, how do you want to feel? What is your goal? If your goal to go keto is just to lose weight, you know, that's easy. But that going up and down, losing weight, and then like I did, and I once I started to cheat or reward myself on a more frequent basis, and then I was just like, well, you know what? I'll rededicate myself at some other point. It was really hard to climb back onto that horse, to climb back up that mountain and really be disciplined again, because once you get back on that sugar train, that white stuff, I'm telling you, it's harder and harder to break free from it the more you return back to it. So I never want to go back to that substance again. I want no part of it. I want to continually to be able to determine how I'm going to feel tomorrow, but what I'm going to put in my body today. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I'll let you share, Brian.
Yeah, I was going to, you touched on something. What's the intermittent fasting? Yeah, a lot of times, you know, people will question me about it, and their first response is, oh, there's no way I could go that long without eating. But they don't realize eight of those 16 hours you're sleeping. So, I mean, you don't eat for that amount of time anyway. I mean, a normal person, they probably average a good 12 hours on a good day if they don't eat a bowl of ice cream right before they go to sleep. But the thing that one of the benefits, the side benefits I got from intermittent fasting was it taught me when I was the true meaning of hunger. And because I'd get to the end of my last meal of the day and I cut myself off. That would be my window would close. And like and this is at the beginning when I first started doing this, be like mid evening, like I'd be bored, or it was a time when I would normally get up and go into the kitchen and grab a snack, or, you know, I started to feel like I wanted to go do that, but then I'd stop myself because I'm in the fasting window, so I'm not going to do it. But it caused me to feel those feelings like I wanted to, but then am I really hungry? And it's like, you know, I'm not even hungry. Why am I thinking about going in the kitchen? And it's almost like this, it's just like a habit, or like boredom, like these weird little reactions that I had to these different feelings, and it had nothing to do with hunger, and that taught me a lot, you know, and then it taught me that I actually could go without food and I wouldn't freak out. You know, people think they're going to be stranded with no food and like, what am I going to do? What if I get hungry? It's like, well, you'll just get through it. It's you know, and when I first started, I would every once in a while, like maybe say at hour 15 or hour 14, I would start to get hungry, and I'd feel it, and then I'd just sort of go about whatever I was doing, and then I'd realize, like, you know, 5 minutes later, oh, it went away, and now I'm not hungry, and it doesn't really matter anymore. So I just hold out, and now it's like, you know, my initial goal is 16 hours. It's like I give myself the luxury of anytime after 16 hours, I can eat again. But most of the time I'll go 22, you know, average 22, 18 to 22 usually. No problem. And sometimes I'll even go 24, and it's like, you know, I don't even realize it. So I get there and I go, oh, wow, it's been 24 hours. I didn't even think about it. But then again, it's, you know, when you're not eating the carbs and the sugar, you don't get hungry. And that's the other thing about, you know, the normal diet, with all the carbs and sugar. It's like, it makes you more hungry. And that's the goal of the food industry, is to make you more hungry. So you'll eat more food, you'll buy more food, and they'll make more money. And that's
Yeah.
the whole vicious cycle.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for anybody who's out there who's trying to get off the sugar, I can just tell you, the hardest part for me was those first 2 or 3 days. I mean, when I truly tell you that I'm truly not going to touch sugar in any form or fashion, and then you got that craving because it's still, you got those cravings, and then you're watching television at night, and every commercial is nothing about food or fast food. It's just pizza delivery, pizza delivery, pizza delivery. And you're like, ah, you know, you so want to give into that urge, and you know, and sometimes you do early on. I wasn't always strong to resist that urge, but until you truly break free from the sugar, I'm just telling you, for me, those cravings were always there. And until you break free from it, now I just look at it, I could be surrounded by it. Matter of fact, one of my favorite places in the world is called Britt's Donuts. Best donut you can ever get. It's at Carolina Beach in North Carolina. And it's a tradition place for my family. You have to wait in a line a mile long to be able to get your freshly made Brit hot donut. And we went there this last summer, and it's, like I said, our kids, it's our favorite place to go. And I look back and go, man, I got them addicted to sugar. But we can go there now, and I still enjoy going there, but I won't have one. Before I would go, oh, vacation, I'll have one. And then I'd feel terrible. Now I can go there and go, okay, I appreciate it, I see it, but I don't even want one. The desire to have that is totally gone from my mind and from my body.
Yeah, the longer you abstain from it, yeah, it does get easier after a while. And yeah, and you know, you just, like for me, I feel so good eating right. It's like, well, why would I want to mess that up now? It's like, you know, I might as well just, if I'm still hungry, I'll eat like a pork rind or something, you know, something that's not sugar. But it's funny, you were talking about TV commercials, how they just pound all that junk food into your head. It's funny because it's between those commercials and then the drug commercials that are correcting the problem that those foods cause.
Yeah, here's the problem, and then let's give you the solution. It's like going to the dentist as a kid. They would give you that candy, you know, they give you sugar candy at the dentist's office. And I always thought that was the coolest thing. But as I, you know, as an adult, I'm like, why in the world does the dentist give you as a kid sugar, and then you want to keep going back to the dentist's office? Why? Because he wants you to be addicted to sugar so you can keep doing the fillings in your mouth. And I got like 30-some fillings. There's not a tooth that survived my childhood.
Right.
But it's no different. I mean, you were talking last week about that doctor trying to give you the Ensure drink so you could put 5 pounds back on because you were melting away. And it's nothing more than crap. And then they turn around, and the same people who they tell people to get on this, they then turn around and go, hey, we need to, you got diabetes, we're going to have to increase your insulin. And you're like, they contributed to the problem, and now you're paying them for the solution. And I guess my heart is, I just want people to be able to do what's in your best interest as an individual, as a person, so you can experience life at its fullest. I've been there where food I was addicted to food. I became addicted to the McDonald's, the fast food, the pizzas. There was a time in my life where I think I had a pizza every single night from Brothers Pizza. I kept Joe in business. He would deliver pizza to me every single night. And I love pizza. I could eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But if you're hearing me, just know that there's a better life out there for you, and a life in which you'll feel better, you'll feel more alert, you won't feel like you're bloated all the time. I can just know that it's a terrible feeling to be bloated. And then to see so many people who you grow up with to start to come down with diabetes and have issues that really do impact how you're going to live, you know, your life in your older years. And so once I became aware of the decisions that I was making was going to impact how I was going to interact with my grandchildren or my children, and how I felt you'll start to realize that this whole journey, at least it was for me, was about overcoming my demons in me, just as much as it was about getting healthy. In order to get healthy, I think you have to overcome those demons that are in each one of us. At least that's my story.
Yeah. I relate to that. Yeah, it's funny. I was, we were talking before we started. When you mentioned Dr. Barry live thing that I missed, but when I was checking my email this morning, I always get like notifications from like Twitter and like, Dr. Barry leaves things on there, little things that he tweets. Okay. Yeah. And but I follow, because I follow him. I follow what's her name? Tina. What's her Teichholz? Nina Teichholz. Do you know her?
Nina. Yes. Yeah. I'm aware of her. Yeah.
She I retweeted one of hers this morning, and it's about the Dietary Guidelines. How there's 11 of the 20 members are connected and to, what is it? I can't even read this. ILSI Global, funded by major food beverage multinationals like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So it's like the people on the board members on the committee for the food guidelines are, they're funded by Pepsi and Coca-Cola. The people that are the sugar people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's who's making the guidelines to tell us what to eat. It's like there was another tweet connected to that or related to it about. It's just like politics. Whenever there's money involved, it's gonna end up corrupt. And the same thing with nutrition, the nutritional guidelines. It's all corrupt because it's paid for by the people that are trying to sell you the junk food, in the processed food.
Now, who was it in the movie? And you've watched this as well. That there's a documentary, and I highly recommend it. If you have not watched this movie, I think it's called Fat. The Fat documentary in regards to low carb benefits of eating low carbs, and then what the medical myths have been, and how the USDA food pyramid has come about. But on that same note, Brian, and you can correct me if you remember this differently, but the Heart Association was just this little like one-man band that were about ready to go out of business, and then they got funded by, I think Nabisco funded them a ton of money to start.
I don't know if it was Nabisco, but it was a major food corporation. Yeah.
Right. So they funded them, and next thing you know, they're putting out whatever the company that's funding them the funds to be able to become a national organization. But up until that point, they were about ready to pull shop. So everybody looks at that logo for Heart Healthy, the Heart Healthy logo, and you're like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm eating healthy, and they base their decision nothing more than on that logo. When that logo is paid for, just like you said about the other thing, about the company that wants you to buy their crap.
Right.
So it's an endless cycle, as you said. You got the commercials that are sitting there telling you to buy our food, and then you got the medicines to sit there to help you live longer because you took their advice of eating their food, and then you got the attorneys who sue you in case either one of them didn't do it right. You can sue both sides. So it's a crazy, real reality TV in between the TV shows is really what put America in the position that we're in now. Like, we're the heaviest, the unhealthiest I think we've ever been as a country since our beginnings. And it's really, you got to ask yourself, when is it going to end?
Mm. Well, yeah, and well, and to top it off, the health system is based on treating the symptoms and not the cause. It's all about throwing like a pill on top of it to suppress the problem that the underlying the underlying problem caused, instead of treating the underlying problem or preventing the underlying problem. Because there's more money, and they can make more money off the pill than they can getting you well to begin with, or keeping you well.
Right, right. No, it's a whole industry. I had a friend. She actually is a retired RN nurse from John Hopkins, and her husband's actually a physician. And we were talking one day in regards to another product that helps your body just heal itself. And she laughed and she says, Jim, we were always taught in school to not worry about anything that was going to make you healthy. Our job was to sit there and to keep pushing pills that would just extend your life, make you think that you needed us. And that's what they gave you. They gave you drug. And if you had it, and here's the crazy part, she said we were trained. So if we put you on a drug and you had an allergic reaction to that drug, we were taught that we'll get another drug to mitigate that allergic reaction so you can be on both drugs.
Right. It's like the Elvis syndrome. One
Yeah.
drug to counteract the other until you're on like 50 drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you look at how Elvis died, or Michael Jackson. You look at all these people who they were putting their care in and who was giving them the drugs, but it comes down to the doctors. I know, you mentioned Ken Berry earlier. I actually reached out to him. I'm going to have him on board as a guest one of these shows, which will be exciting. I know he's got a new book called, I think it's called, why is it skipping my mind? Lies.
Oh,
my doctor told me.
Yeah, the lies my doctor tells me or told me.
Yeah. So have you read that book yet?
Oh yeah. In fact, he had a self-published version like years ago, and I bought that to begin with, and then he got a regular publishing deal, and he had an updated version of it. He added some more stuff in. Yeah, I have that on my Kindle, and then I also have the Audible version of it too. So I have 3 different versions of it. But yeah, that's a really good book, and he doesn't really go into like he keeps it a little vague here and there. Maybe it was the original book that I remember, but because he doesn't want to get in trouble, because that's the problem.
Right.
When you point out the truth, you can end up losing your medical license because you're going against what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, if a doctor does not hand out a certain amount of whatever drug they're telling them to prescribe, they're called into question. Why are you not prescribing this medicine? It really is. I mean, I feel bad for doctors that are having to practice medicine in this day and age, because they really, even the good ones, come under fire from the people who supposedly have our best interests at heart.
Yeah. In fact, the other tweet that Dr. Canberry had this morning, I think it had to do with censorship and how, anytime, I don't know if it was his tweet or maybe it was somebody else on Instagram, like Dr. Paul Saladino, one of those guys. They were talking about, if they say something against the regular medical, what they're supposed to say, they get censored, and like he can't, like I think you can't even mention whatever the COVID-19 or whatever. Like Dr. Berry has to skirt around that and sort of say something else instead of that. He can't come out and say it because then he can get censored for it because he's a doctor and he's not given proper medical advice, like he's supposed to.
Right. Which, by the way, which, by the way, we're not giving any medical advice on this show either. That's go to your own physician and take whatever advice they're telling you, or don't take it. But we got a disclaimer at the front of this show as well. But
well,
I'm not getting paid to say that.
well, the best thing is to do your own research. Just like even Dr. Barry, you know, when him and Anisha do their little, you know, Facebook Live things, he always says, or no, actually, it's his little informational videos that he puts out. He'll say, you know, don't take my word for it. You know, do the research and look for yourself. He says, never blindly follow anybody, including me. and that's
right.
That's very true for anything. And you know, I found that out early on. You know, going to doctors, like the bad advice that they'll just hand out to you. And if you're, you know, if you're like a normal person, you just assume that the doctor knows what they're talking about, and you just blindly follow it, and then you end up, you know, with type 2 diabetes down the road. It's crazy.
It is a crazy time. Well, let's. I just looked at the clock and it's
wow.
time to. Yeah. So anyway, well, we're gonna wrap this show up. We're going to start doing some live shows so we can take your questions live and have your questions. But if you have any questions, you can put them as a comment on this Facebook page. I'll put links to everything we're talking about below. So if you want to go check out some of the cooking that Brian's doing on his channel and the recipes he's doing, like the short ribs or the prime rib or the duck eggs or the chaffles, you know, go check his channel, go subscribe, give him a thumbs up, and follow, because he's always cooking. Now, are you doing one a day now? Are you doing one cooking show a day?
No, it's every other day, maybe every 2 days. Like, well, I did one yesterday, but I haven't posted it yet because the editing part of it is just such a nightmare. But what I did, I mean, everybody always sees my meal, so it's always going to be one of the meals that they've seen. It'll turn up as a video like in a day or two. Like I just uploaded it before we did this up onto YouTube, but I haven't made it public yet. I still have to do the little thumbnail, you know, thing on the front and all that stuff, and then I'll throw it up there.
Well, your short ribs look really, really good. That's delicious.
That's the new video.
Oh, that's the new video, the short ribs? Oh, I'm giving it away. Well, listen, I'm going to go back to the channel. Now, do you include the recipe or how you cook them in your comment section, or is that getting too detailed?
Well, I'm actually expanding. The more of these that I do, the more I realize, oh, I should let them know what I did for this. Like I do include the ingredients for the little rub that I kind of sprinkle on it. But yeah, I guess I could go into more detail about the actual recipe. That's a good idea. Because I do get a lot of questions, even though if you watch the video, I explain it as I go too.
No, you do. And I didn't see the short rib. Obviously hasn't been posted yet. So, but that's a staple that you normally have on a routine basis, is it not?
I've had them. This might be the third time I've made them. I haven't had them that many times. I've definitely never made a video, but these particular ones that I just got, I got them from the regular place, the Tennessee grass-fed farm, where I get most of my meat that I order, because I can order it from them. They're about 45 minutes from here, and then they deliver it to this little produce market, like right up the road. So I can go, like, I'll order like on a Friday, and then Monday I can go pick it up, or Tuesday. So this particular set of short ribs I had ordered, and I ordered the grass-fed because it's all usually grass-fed meat. And they called me back and they go, "Oh, we're sorry, we're out of the grass-fed, but we have these Wagyu ones that we can give you a place." And I go, they go, "Would you rather get a refund or order something else?" I'm like, no, that's fine. And I get them, and man, they were huge, and they had all like marbling. I just finished them off before, but about a half hour.
Oh my
When we
God.
got together, I was dozing on the couch. Like I was telling you, luckily I set the alarm on my clock to remind me. But those are some
Yeah.
good whips.
Yeah, those look really good. At least in the picture that you posted earlier look really good. Well, look, we're gonna wrap up this episode, but please send us your emails, your questions, how we can help you, what recipes you like, tell us some of your struggles. We'd love to hear about it. You can send it to ketorocks22@gmail.com or message Brian or or leave as a comment on the bottom of this video. And until next week, stay healthy, stay clean, and we'll see you soon.